Yeah, he made some excellent points about the sport of boxing when he was on midweek sports special signing the contract to fight Nigel Benn. He called the sport barbaric. What, 30 years on, the sport is still barbaric, and your son is involved with it. My thoughts are this, and I would have anybody give me examples of the opposite of what I'm trying to say. Chris Eubank Sr., his words were truthful, honest. It's not my role or my decision or my business to know what gets on outside the boxing world between Eubank Sr. and his son. But if they make it public, or Chris Sr. has made it public, for, I would say, for educational purposes, then fine. That's up to him. But it's who he's talking to. He's talking to me, he's talking to you down the camera, and he's talking to the media outlets. Now you tell me, which media outlet is going to stand up with Chris Eubank Sr. and ask the questions that need to be asked to these promoters? Who's going to ask the question to these promoters? And what consequences will there be? Listen, how many boxing bouts have we seen where the fights have gone the other way, where there's been blatant robbery, misjustice, or injustice? And all these media outlets will stick a camera and a microphone into your face and ask you, well, what do you think and what is your opinion? Do they care? No, they don't care. They want views. Views is what gets them paid. Clickbait. And that is all Chris Eubank Sr. has become. Clickbait. He speaks things, it sounds great, it's great for the promotion, it's great for the promotion of the fight. Will Eubank be there? Won't he be there? Will he be in his son's corner? Won't he be in his son's corner? That's great. People want to listen in because it's a great fight and lots of nostalgia made by the two fathers. Okay? Other than that, what are these news outlets going to do? You say your message for what reason? You cry in front of the camera, you break down in tears, you could drop down dead. It's views. I got 1 million views, I got 550,000 views. Yeah, people come to my channel because I ask the questions. Tell me, by what Eubank has done and said, apart from, making a few people feel uncomfortable, is it stopping the money coming in? Is there going to be legal cases made? Is there anything that he's saying there that's going to make significant changes to the sport? With Turkey now involved and money, it will be a slave, will make a lot of fighters slaves. They're going to go where the money is, and they will do some crazy things, I'm sure, for the money, which will mean you might see more catchweight fights. Crawford versus Canelo will probably be something more of a norm because there's the money for it. So you might start seeing crazy fights. You might even see men and women fighting together. Anything is possible now. Anything is possible. So the levels of boxing have lowered to the point where we have misfits boxing. Yeah. And I'm just waiting now to see retired fighters over 50s boxing in a boxing league for nostalgic purposes. Okay. But I will say this. I've seen it one too many times in boxing where people speak out and nothing gets done about it. People speak out about the judges, the referees. The same freaking judges, the same referees. They make catastrophic errors in their judging or their scoring, and that you'll see them on a card the next week scoring and judging again. Eubank Jr. versus Conor Ben won't be the first fight, and it won't be the last fight like this. And if one of them gets seriously hurt, well, guess what happens? They get seriously hurt, there'll be a blow up in the newspaper about it. Oh, boxing should be banned. And then we'll get maybe a couple of months following about the injured fighter, and then he'll be forgotten. Just like Michael Watson. To tell you how much people care about Michael Watson are those people who were there that understood what happened at the time. They're the old school folk. But if you ask your average boxing fan today who Michael Watson is, they won't know. They know Nigel Benn, Conor Benn. They know Chris Eubank Snr, Eubank Jr. But Michael Watson, they're not going to talk about. But yet, Michael Watson beat up Ben and more or less beat up Eubank as well. You know, people thought that Watson won the first fight against Eubank. That's why they had the second fight. Fact of the matter is, Chris is speaking, but who is listening? Who is listening? Who are these media outlets are going to say, you know what? Chris Eubank has got a point. Let's follow up. Let's do a documentary. Let's do an investigation about this. Let's blow this whole thing open. No, they're not going to do that. Why? Because they are in the hands of the promoters, and they will do what the promoter says. If they don't do what the promoter says, then what will happen is they no longer get paid. They no longer get the trips abroad to cover fights. They no longer get the opportunities to be on TV. They no longer get the opportunities to do what they all they can do. That is what it is. So why Chris Eubank Sr. finds it a point to sit down and tell all these news outlets about how he feels. Yes, he feels the way he does, and he's entitled to feel the way he does. But the fact of the matter is, nobody's going to do a damn thing about it. Nobody cares. They don't. That's the brutal truth, because if there was care and there was change, then there'd be a lot more things happening to stop our current situation happening. That's good for David Hay. So, those are my thoughts. Might not be what people want to hear, but there's no point me sitting here saying, well, Eubank's right, and his son, nobody cares. Nobody really cares. Nobody cares. What I mean, nobody cares. Nobody in a position of power to make real change happen cares, because allowing stuff to continue. And usually it takes a fatality for people to understand. The press conferences are getting out of control, and it's just fighters are just going one step further every time, until we have somebody who brings a gun into a press conference or does something that is absolutely out of this world. Because how much more of the bar can you take? How much more can you do? How much more can you do? I don't know, but finding a fighter 100,000 who's going to make millions on a night again, it doesn't make any sense to me. As you saw, 100,000, Eubank's using the money and he's spending money on paying fighters, something the promoter should have been doing. He's doing it. Stuff like that we need to be focusing on to make the changes, start to make the changes. But people are doing fundraisers for Michael Watson and what's this guy's name, Ben and Nick Blackwell. I think we can do a lot more, boxing fans. So Eubank has just become, for me, clickbait. It's great hearing what he's got to say. It's refreshing to hear what he's got to say. But when Eubank himself is standing up and saying these things, and very few other fighters are saying anything about it, it tells you the climate we're in today. We don't care. We want fights. We don't care who gets hurt. We just want to be satisfied with big fights. We don't want to hear this stuff. We're not going to change. So unless some legal, the only time this stuff will become serious is when some legal paperwork is brought forward. And when that legal paperwork is brought forward to the point where it is making change, radical change, and these promoters and the board have to think about what they do and the actions of other boxers and the fights that have been made and the weight categories and stuff. Until that legal stuff is put in place, I'm afraid what Eubank is saying is just talk and clickbait, and that's all it will be. And it will sound great, but the bottom line is, where do we go from here? You boxing fans, you who listen to Chris Eubank Jr. Senior talking, what do you think? What should be the next step? I'll leave it with you. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, leave your comments in the comment section. I'm out. Take care.